The wrench fell from Owen's hand and hit the metal floor with a loud clang. He said a bad word under his breath and wiped the black grease off his hands. The old mining machines never stayed fixed for long. But that was normal life on Redstone Valley. Everything here was old, used, or barely working. Nothing was new or fancy. A loud crash came from the doorway. Owen turned around fast. A small dragon was tumbling through his door. The little creature's wings flapped hard, but they were not helping. The dragon could not stay standing. It kept falling and sliding on the smooth floor. The dragon was not very big. It was about the size of a large dog. Its scales were bronze-colored and shiny in the afternoon sunlight. Owen knew those bronze scales right away. This was Pip. This was Sarah's baby dragon. Owen put down his tools and walked toward the little dragon. His boots made quiet sounds on the floor. He looked worried now. "What are you doing here?" Owen asked. His voice was gentle but concerned. "Where is your mother?" The little dragon's eyes were very wide. They were full of fear and panic. Tears ran down the small scale face. Pip ran forward fast and grabbed Owen's shirt sleeve with tiny claws. The claws were so small, they barely went through the fabric. They did not hurt at all. Please, you have to come," Pip said. The words came out broken and shaky. Pip was breathing hard and talking Galactic Common, the language humans and dragons both spoke. "Mommy's sick. She needs you. She keeps saying your name." Owen felt his stomach drop. Something cold and heavy settled in his chest. He got down on his knees, so he was at the same height as the hatchling. He put his hands on Pip's small shaking shoulders. "Slow down, Pip," Owen said in a calm voice. "Tell me what happened." "She fell down this morning." Pip cried. The little dragon was sobbing now. "She won't wake up. The healers came and looked at her, but they say nothing can help. They say she's dying." Pip's voice broke when saying that last word. The little dragon's whole body shook with fear and sadness. "But Mommy keeps whispering for Owen. For you," Pip continued. "Please, you saved her before. You saved her from the rocks. You can save her now. Please." Owen felt his chest get tight. It was hard to breathe for a moment. 3 years ago, something bad had happened. Sarah had been trapped in a collapsed mine tunnel. Everyone else had given up after the first hour. They all said it was impossible to reach her. The rocks were too heavy. The tunnel was too dangerous. It would take too long. But Owen had spent 14 hours digging through rock and broken metal. He used his bare hands when the machine stopped working. He could still remember the moment when he finally saw her wing. It was trapped under a huge rock. He could still remember the relief in her eyes. She had been so scared. But when she saw him, she knew someone had come to save her. Someone had not given up. After that day, Sarah visited him often. She brought Pip with her every time. The little dragon was just a baby then. Pip learned human words from Owen. Pip heard stories about Earth, the planet where humans came from. Owen told stories about forests with tall trees. He told stories about oceans with blue water. He told stories about cities with buildings that touched the sky. Pip would sit and listen for hours. The little dragon's bright eyes were always full of wonder and curiosity. Dragons were very proud creatures. Everyone knew this. They rarely asked anyone for help. They especially never asked humans for help. The fact that Pip was here now, begging like this, meant things were really, really bad. This was an emergency. "Where is she?" Owen asked. His voice was firm now. He was making a decision. "Nesting grounds in the deep caves," Pip said. The little dragon pulled harder on his sleeve. "Please hurry. I'm scared she won't wake up again." Owen stood up quickly. He walked fast to the back of his workshop. There were shelves on the wall with boxes and tools. He reached up high and pulled down an old military medical kit. The box was covered in dust. He had not touched it in years. This was from his time as a soldier. He swore he would never need it again after he retired from the military. But he always kept it. He checked the supplies inside every few months, just to make sure everything still worked. He opened the box and looked inside. Everything was still good. The medicines had not expired. The bandages were still sealed. The equipment still worked. "Let's go," he said. Pip's whole body relaxed a little bit. The little dragon looked so relieved. There was hope in those young eyes now. Pip turned and ran toward the door, then looked back to make sure Owen was following. They left the workshop behind. They walked into the wild land beyond the colony settlement. The ground became rougher and harder to walk on. There were big red rocks everywhere. They stuck up from the ground like broken teeth. This was why the place was called Redstone Valley. Everything here was red. Pip moved between the rocks easily. The little dragon knew this path very well. But Pip was small and got tired fast. After walking for an hour, Pip was breathing very hard. "I'm sorry," Pip said between breaths. "I'm not big enough to carry you like grown dragons do. You have to walk." "Don't apologize," Owen said. He bent down and picked up the tired little dragon. He held Pip in his arms like carrying a child. "I've walked farther than this before. Save your energy." Pip curled up against his chest. The small claws held onto his shirt. The little dragon felt warm and was shaking a little. "Do you really think you can help Mommy?" Pip asked. The voice was so small and scared. Owen wanted to say yes. He wanted to promise that everything would be fine. He wanted to tell this scared child that Sarah would be perfectly healthy. But he learned a long time ago not to make promises he might not be able to keep. That was one of the hard lessons from the war. "I'll do everything I can," he said instead. "Your mother is strong. She survived being buried alive. She can survive this too. She told me about that day." Pip said quietly. "She said all the other people left, but you stayed. You dug and dug until you found her." The little dragon looked up at him with those big, trusting eyes. She said, "Humans never leave people behind. That's what makes you different from everyone else in the galaxy." Owen's throat felt tight. He could not speak for a moment. He remembered his old military squad. He remembered the promise they all made to each other. Leave no one behind. That was their oath. Most of his unit died keeping that promise. They died saving other people. Owen was one of the few soldiers who survived the war. And some days, he still asked himself why. Why did he get to live when so many better people died? They climbed higher into the hills. The path got steeper and rockier. Other dragons appeared in the sky above them. They flew in circles, watching. They looked at Owen with suspicious eyes. A human walking into dragon territory was very unusual. It almost never happened. But they could see Pip was very upset. So they did not stop Owen. They let him pass. The entrance to the nesting caves appeared ahead. It was a huge opening in the side of the mountain. More dragons gathered near it. Their large bodies cast long shadows on the ground. There were so many of them. A very large male dragon with silver scales stepped forward. He blocked the path. His body was like a wall. "You brought a human here," the dragon said. His voice was deep and rumbling like thunder. "Elder Roth," Pip said quickly. "This is Owen. He saved Mommy before. She's asking for him." Roth looked at Owen with ancient, wise eyes. He stared for a long time, studying the human. "We have healers," Roth said. "What can a human possibly do that we cannot?" Owen met the dragon's gaze. He did not look away. He stood straight and spoke clearly. "Maybe nothing," Owen said honestly. "But Sarah asked for me, and I'm here. Will you let me see her or not?" For a long moment, Roth said nothing. The air felt heavy. Everyone waited. Then the great dragon stepped aside. "She is in the deepest chamber," Roth said. His voice was serious and sad. "But know this, human. Our healers have said there is no hope. Sarah suffers from crimson fate. It has killed our kind for thousands of years. There is no cure." Owen walked past him into the darkness of the caves. He did not respond to those words. He would see for himself. Pip jumped down from his arms and led the way through the winding tunnels. The walls glowed with soft light from special fungi. The air became warmer as they went deeper into the mountain. Finally, they came out into a huge chamber. The ceiling was very high. The room was big enough to fit several houses inside. Sarah lay in the center of the room. Her huge body was barely moving. Her bronze scales had lost their shine. They looked dull and gray now, like old metal. Her breathing was very shallow and slow. It looked like it hurt her to breathe. Other dragons stood around her in a circle. Their heads were bowed down in sadness and respect. Owen walked forward slowly. His boots echoed in the quiet chamber. He knelt down beside Sarah's great head. She was so big. Her head alone was bigger than Owen's whole body. "Sarah," he said softly, "I'm here." One golden. I opened just a little bit. When she saw him, something like relief crossed her face. Her mouth moved like she was trying to speak, but no sound came out. Then her eye closed again. She went completely still. Pip pressed against Owen's leg. The little dragon was trembling hard. "You can fix her, right?" Pip asked. The voice was desperate and pleading. "Please say you can fix her." Owen opened his medical kit with shaking hands. He did not know if he could save her, but he had to try. He had to do everything possible. That was the promise he made long ago. Leave no one behind. Owen pulled the medical scanner from his kit. His hands were shaking a little. The scanner was old. It was designed to work on humans, not dragons, but it could detect basic vital signs in most living creatures. He ran it slowly over Sarah's massive body. Numbers appeared on the small screen. Owen read them carefully. None of them looked good. Everything was wrong. Sarah's body was shutting down. Elder Roth moved closer. His silver scales gleamed in the dim cave light. "As I said, human," Roth spoke. "Crimson fate has no cure. We have watched our people die from this sickness since before your species even left your world." "What are the symptoms?" Owen asked. He did not look up from the scanner. He kept studying the readings. "The scales lose their color first," Roth explained. "Then weakness spreads through the body. The blood itself begins to fail. Death comes slowly over many days. Sarah collapsed this morning, but she has likely been sick for much longer. She hit it well." Owen's scanner beeped. He frowned at what he saw. Something about the readings looked familiar. It tickled at the edges of his memory. He had seen something like this before. But where? When? He ran the scanner over Sarah's chest again. He looked at the pathogen signature more carefully. Then suddenly, it hit him. A memory came flooding back. Ashfall, the colony world where his military unit had been stationed during the war. The people there had gotten sick with a disease that had similar symptoms. Weakness, organ failure, blood that stopped working properly. The colonists called it Red Death because it turned their veins dark under the skin. Owen had helped treat dozens of cases. He stayed awake for days helping the doctors. Eventually, the medical team developed a cure. It worked. People survived. He checked the pathogen signature again. He compared it in his mind to what he remembered from Ashfall. The structure was not exactly the same, but it was close. Very close. Too close to be a coincidence. A cold feeling settled in his stomach. "This is not a dragon disease," he said quietly. Roth's head swung toward him fast. "What are you saying?" Owen closed his eyes for a moment. He did not want to believe it, but the evidence was clear. Crimson fate. "How long has your species suffered from it?" Owen asked. "Thousands of years, as I said," Roth answered. "No." Owen shook his head. "When did it actually start? Not legends or old stories. When is the first verified case you have records of?" Roth was silent for a long moment. He seemed to be thinking hard. "Perhaps 200 years ago," he finally said. "Why does this matter?" 200 years. That was around the time humans first made contact with this region of space. Owen felt sick to his stomach. "Because this is not your disease," Owen said. His voice was heavy with guilt. "Humans brought this here. Not on purpose, but we brought it. This is a human pathogen that somehow jumped to your species." The chamber went completely silent. Every dragon turned to stare at Owen. He could feel their anger building. It was like pressure before a storm. The air felt thick and dangerous. "You did this." Roth's voice was low and dangerous. "Your kind killed our people." "Not intentionally," Owen said. He met the elder's furious gaze without looking away. "But yes, humans were the source. And that means I know how to cure it." Pip looked up suddenly. Hope filled those young eyes again. "You can save her?" Pip asked. "Maybe," Owen said carefully. He did not want to promise too much. "During the war, I was stationed on Ashfall. The colonists there got sick with something almost identical to this. We developed a treatment. It worked on humans. I don't know if it will work on dragons, but it's the best chance she has. Where is this medicine? Roth demanded. Owen's hope began to crumble like sand. In a government storage facility, he said slowly, about 300 kilometers from here. Then send for it immediately, Roth said. It's not that simple, Owen explained. The facility was abandoned 5 years ago. It sits in the middle of a radiation zone now. The colony's only transport ship is broken down for repairs. There's no way to get there except on foot. 300 kilometers through radiation, Roth said. That is suicide for most species. Yes, Owen admitted, but humans are more resistant to radiation than most other species. I could survive it. Barely. How long would this journey take? Another dragon asked. Owen did the math in his head. He calculated distance and walking speed. He factored in difficult terrain and the need to avoid the worst radiation areas. 40 hours minimum, he said, if I don't stop to rest. And if nothing goes wrong. They all turned to look at Sarah. Her body trembled with each breath. She looked worse now than she had just minutes ago. Time was running out fast. How long does she have? Owen asked quietly. Roth's anger faded into deep sadness. His old eyes looked tired. Perhaps 2 days, he said. Maybe less. 40 hours to get there. 40 hours to get back. 80 hours total. Sarah would be dead long before Owen returned, unless he could somehow make the journey in half that time. Owen stood up. He checked his medical kit carefully. He had stimulants inside. They were powerful drugs that could keep a person awake and moving for days. He had radiation medicine that would help protect his body, at least partially. He had survived worse during the war. He could do this. He had to do this. I'm going, he said firmly. You will die, Roth stated. It was not a question. It was a fact. Maybe, Owen said. But if I don't go, Sarah definitely dies. Those are not acceptable odds to me. Pip jumped up. The little dragon's wings fluttered hard. I'll come with you, Pip said. I'll help. No, Owen said firmly. He knelt down and put his hands on Pip's small shoulders. He looked directly into those young eyes. The radiation would kill you in hours. You need to stay here with your mother. But you'll die too, Pip cried. Tears ran down the scale face again. You said you'd barely survive. That means you might not survive. I might not, Owen agreed. He was honest about it. But I'm going anyway. Why? Pip's voice broke completely. Why would you risk your life for us? We're just dragons. You only met Mommy 3 years ago. Owen was quiet for a moment. How could he explain it to a child? How could he put into words the oath he had taken so many years ago? The promise that had cost him everything he loved, but had also given his life meaning and purpose. Because your mother didn't leave me behind either, he finally said. He had never told anyone this part of the story. Most people only knew that he saved Sarah from the collapsed mine. They did not know what happened after. After I pulled her from those rocks, I was in bad shape. Owen continued. Broken ribs. Internal bleeding. I thought I would die in that mine. But Sarah stayed with me. She kept me warm with her body heat. She breathed carefully to give me air when the dust got too thick. She talked to me for hours to keep me conscious until help arrived. Pip stared at him with wide, surprised eyes. The little dragon had never heard this story before. She could have left once she was free, Owen said. She could have flown away and sent help later. But she stayed. So now I stay. That's what you do for family. We're family, Pip asked in a small voice. Yeah, Owen said softly. I think we are. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out an old military medal. It was tarnished and bent. The metal was worn smooth in places from years of him holding it. It was the only thing he had kept from his military days. Everything else from that time he had thrown away or left behind. He pressed a medal into Pip's small claws. Hold on to this for me, he said. I'll come back for it. I promise. Pip clutched the medal with both front claws. The little dragon held it like it was the most precious thing in the world. You promise? Pip asked, "You promise you'll come back?" "I promise," Owen said. He stood up and turned to Roth. His expression was serious and determined. "Take care of them both while I'm gone," he said. "If Sarah wakes up, tell her I'm coming back with the cure." Roth studied him for a long moment. Something changed in the old dragon's eyes. The anger was gone. Now there was respect there. "I have misjudged your species, Owen Harper," Roth said. "Go with our blessing. We will guard them with our lives." Owen nodded once. Then he turned and walked out of the chamber. He did not look back. If he looked back and saw Pip's frightened face or Sarah's dying body, he might lose his resolve. He might change his mind. He could not afford that. The sun was setting as he emerged from the caves. Beautiful colors painted the sky orange and red and purple. Owen adjusted his backpack. He checked the supplies one more time. Then he started walking toward the radiation zone. 300 kilometers. 40 hours to save a life. He had survived worse odds before. At least, that was what he told himself. Deep down, he knew this might be the last journey he ever made. But that was okay. Some things were worth dying for. Family was worth dying for. Owen walked into the growing darkness. Behind him, in the cave, Pip watched until the human disappeared from sight. The little dragon clutched the metal tightly and whispered one word over and over like a prayer. "Please." 20 hours into the journey, Owen's body was starting to fail. He stumbled over a loose rock and caught himself against a large boulder. His hands left bloody prints on the stone. Everything hurt. Every muscle screamed in pain. Every breath burned in his lungs. The radiation suit he wore was old military surplus. It was designed for short-term exposure, not an extended march through contaminated wasteland. The protective layers were breaking down faster than he had hoped. He could feel it. The radiation was getting through. The landscape around him looked like something from a nightmare. Red dust covered everything. The few plants that grew here were twisted and wrong. Their leaves were strange colors. Their shapes were not natural. This area had been beautiful once, before the reactor meltdown. Now it was a dead zone that stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. Owen checked his dosimeter. The small device measured radiation levels. The numbers were climbing higher and higher. He was getting closer to the facility, which meant things would only get worse from here. He forced himself to keep walking, one foot in front of the other. That was all he could think about. Just keep moving. Don't stop. His mind drifted back to the war, back to Ashfall and the plague that had swept through the colony. He remembered a little girl, maybe 8 years old. She had survived the disease only because Owen had stayed up for 3 nights straight monitoring her treatment. She had held his hand and called him a hero, but he had not felt like a hero. He had felt like someone desperately trying not to fail again. The girl's mother had died 2 days before they found the cure. Owen still remembered her name. He remembered all their names, everyone he could not save. They haunted his dreams even now, years after the war ended. But he also remembered the ones who lived. The colony had survived. Families stayed together. Children grew up who otherwise would have died. That had to count for something. Owen's legs gave out. He fell to his knees hard. The impact sent pain shooting through his body. He gasped for air. His lungs were burning. The radiation was attacking his cells, breaking down his body from the inside. He fumbled for his medical kit with shaking hands. He pulled out a stimulant injector. The warning label said very clearly not to use more than 1 dose per week. He had already used 3 in the past 20 hours. He jabbed the 4th dose into his thigh. Energy flooded through his system. It was artificial and chemical, but it was effective. His heart rate spiked. His vision cleared. The exhaustion faded, pushed back by the powerful drugs. He climbed back to his feet and kept moving. 1 step, then another, back in the dragon caves. Pip refused to leave Sarah's side. The little dragon had not eaten or slept since Owen left. Elder Roth tried to coax the hatchling away, tried to convince Pip to rest and eat something. But Pip just clutched Owen's metal tighter and shook his head firmly. "Mommy needs me," Pip said, "and Owen needs someone to believe he's coming back." Sarah's condition had gotten worse through the night. Her breathing was so shallow now that sometimes it seemed to stop completely. The healers checked on her regularly, but there was nothing they could do except wait. Wait and hope. In her few conscious moments, Sarah whispered Owen's name. Her voice was so weak it was barely a sound. He went to get medicine. Pip told her during one of these moments. The little dragon pressed close to Sarah's face. He said he's coming back. He promised. Sarah's eye opened slightly. Just a crack. She looked at her child. Something like peace crossed her face. Then she slipped back into unconsciousness. The other young dragons came to sit with Pip. They did not fully understand why their friend cared so much about a human, but they stayed anyway. That was what friends did. They sat together in the dim cave, keeping watch over the dying dragon. Owen reached the facility at the 30-hour mark. He had made better time than expected, but it had cost him dearly. Blood ran from his nose in a steady stream. His hands shook so badly he could barely grip his scanner. His skin felt like it was on fire. The building loomed ahead. It was half collapsed and overgrown with mutated plants. The main entrance was blocked by piles of rubble and twisted metal. Owen found a side door hanging open on broken hinges. He squeezed through and entered the darkness beyond. His flashlight flickered. The batteries were dying. Of course they were. Nothing was going right except the fact that he was still alive and moving. He navigated through the corridors by memory. He had been stationed here briefly during the war, long before the meltdown. The layout was burned into his brain from dozens of supply runs. Left at the intersection, down 2 flights of stairs, past the armory, through the medical wing. The storage room door was sealed shut. Owen pulled out a plasma cutter and went to work on the lock. His hands were shaking so badly that it took 3 tries to get the angle right. Sparks flew as the cutter slowly melted through the metal. The lock finally gave way with a shower of bright sparks. The door swung open with a creak. Owen stepped inside and swept his flashlight across rows of storage containers. Each one was labeled with medical codes and dates. He moved quickly down the aisles, searching for the right designation. His eyes scanned label after label. There, Container M847, Ashfall Plague Treatment, Batch 7. He pulled the container down from the shelf and opened it with trembling hands. Inside were dozens of vials. Each one held the medicine that had saved so many lives on Ashfall. The clear liquid inside looked perfect, but the preservation unit was failing. The indicator light blinked red, a warning signal. Owen's heart sank like a stone. No, please no. He checked the vials one by one. Most of them had degraded. The liquid inside had turned brown and cloudy. They were useless now, ruined. He kept searching, hoping against hope that at least some had survived. 3 vials. Out of 72 original doses, only 3 were still viable. Only 3 still had clear liquid inside. Owen carefully packed them into a protective case. He secured it in his backpack with extra padding. 3 doses would have to be enough. He had no way of knowing what dosage Sarah would need. Dragons were much larger than humans. 1 vial might not be sufficient, but 3 was all he had. He turned to leave. His vision blurred suddenly. The room spun around him like he was on a carnival ride. He grabbed the shelf for support. His knees felt weak. His body was shutting down. The radiation poisoning was too severe. The stimulants were keeping him conscious, but they could not repair the damage being done to his cells at the molecular level. Owen pulled out another injector. This one was different from the stimulants. It was a last resort combat drug. It was designed to keep soldiers functioning long enough to complete their mission, even with fatal injuries. The military had banned its use after the war because of the severe side effects. The label warned that it could cause permanent damage to the heart and nervous system. It could cause seizures. It could cause brain damage. It could kill you. Owen jabbed it into his neck without hesitation. The effect was immediate and brutal. His entire body went rigid. Every muscle locked up at once. Pain exploded through every nerve. It was so intense that he could not even scream. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then, just as suddenly, the pain vanished completely. His vision sharpened to unnatural clarity. His heartbeat slowed to a steady, mechanical rhythm. He felt nothing. No pain. No exhaustion. No fear. Just cold efficiency. Owen walked out of the facility. His body moved like a machine now. The drug was overriding every signal that should have made him stop. He did not feel his feet bleeding inside his boots. He did not notice when he fell and got back up. He just walked. Somewhere in the back of his mind, the part of him that was still human knew he was dying. The radiation damage was too severe. The combat drug was destroying what little healthy tissue remained. He would not survive this journey, but he would complete it. That was all that mattered now. Complete the mission. Get the medicine back. Save Sarah. Owen walked through the wasteland like a ghost. His body was there, but his mind was somewhere else. Somewhere far away where there was no pain. The hours blurred together. Day became night, became day again. He did not stop. He did not rest. He just walked. In the cave, Pip woke suddenly. Something had changed. The little dragon looked at Sarah and gasped in horror. Her mother had stopped breathing completely. There was no movement in her chest at all. No, no, no! Pip cried. The little dragon scrambled to Sarah's side. Mommy, please wake up. Please. Owen's coming back. He's bringing medicine. You have to wait for him. The healers rushed over. They examined Sarah carefully. They exchanged grim looks with each other. I am sorry, little one of them said gently. She is gone. No, Pip shouted. The word echoed through the cave. She's not gone. She's just sleeping. Owen will fix her when he gets back. He promised. Elder Roth entered the chamber. He had been keeping watch at the cave entrance. His face was grave and serious. There is something you should see, he said quietly. The dragons moved outside into the early morning light. Dawn was breaking over the hills. The sky was painted in beautiful shades of orange and red. A figure was walking toward them across the wasteland. Even from a distance, they could see the person was in very bad shape. The walk was unsteady and mechanical. But the figure kept coming, step after painful step. Pip's eyes went wide with recognition and hope. Owen, the little dragon, breathed. Then Pip launched into the air. Small wings beat frantically. Other dragons followed, flying out to meet the approaching human. They found him collapsed 2 kilometers from the caves. He was face down in the dirt, but his hands were still clutching a small case tightly against his chest. The medicine. He had brought the medicine home. The adult dragons lifted Owen's broken body carefully. They were as gentle as they could be. They flew him back to the caves, moving slowly through the air. Pip circled around them, crying out Owen's name over and over. But the human did not respond. His eyes were closed. Blood covered his face. They laid him on the cave floor, near Sarah's still form. The healers rushed to examine him. But even they fell back in shock when they saw the extent of his injuries. One healer put a claw to her mouth in horror. This should not be possible, she whispered. No one survives this level of radiation poisoning. How is he still alive? Barely alive, another healer corrected. His voice was grim. Look at his cellular degradation. His organs are failing. He will be dead within the hour. Pip threw himself at Owen's chest. The little dragon pressed an ear against the human's ribs, listening desperately. The heartbeat was there. It was faint and irregular, but it was there. Owen was still alive. Pip looked at the case still clutched in Owen's hands. The little dragon carefully pried it free from those bloody fingers. Inside were 3 vials filled with clear liquid. They looked perfect and undamaged. The medicine, Pip breathed. He got it. He really got it. Elder Roth landed beside them. His expression was grim as he looked between Owen and Sarah. Both were dying. Both might be beyond saving. The medicine came too late, Roth said quietly. No, Pip said fiercely. The little dragon's voice was strong and determined. Not too late. We give the medicine to Mommy now. Owen said it would work. Pip, Roth said gently. He put a claw on the small dragon's shoulder. Your mother's heart has stopped. She is beyond saving now. Then we fix her heart, Pip insisted. Dragons can do that. I've seen you do it before. When Uncle Carol got hurt, You shocked his heart, and it started again. Roth hesitated. It was true that dragon fire could restart a heart if applied quickly enough. But Sarah had been gone for several minutes already. The chances of success were almost zero. It had been too long. "Please," Pip begged. Tears streamed down the small-scale face. "Owen gave everything to bring this medicine. We have to try. We have to." The old dragon looked at the unconscious human. He looked at the evidence of Owen's sacrifice written in burns and blood across every inch of exposed skin. This human had walked through death itself to keep a promise to a child. "Very well," Ross said finally. "We will try." He called the other adult dragons over and explained what needed to be done. They positioned themselves around Sarah's massive body. Roth placed his claws carefully on her chest, right over where her heart lay silent and still. "Stand back, little one," he told Pip. A controlled burst of dragon fire shot from Roth's mouth. It was focused into a thin stream that struck Sarah's chest. Her body jerked violently, but nothing happened. Her heart remained still. He tried again, adjusting the intensity of the flame. Still nothing. On the third attempt, Sarah's body convulsed. She gasped suddenly. Her heart stuttered, missed a beat, then started again with a weak, fragile rhythm. The dragons erupted in shocked whispers. No one had truly believed it would work. Pip rushed forward. "Mommy, Mommy, wake up." But Sarah did not wake. Her breathing was shallow. Her heartbeat was weak and irregular. She was alive, but barely. And without the medicine, she would die again soon. Roth picked up one of the vials and studied it carefully. He turned it over in his claw. "I do not know how to use this," he admitted. "The dosage, the method of delivery. Human medicine works differently from ours." "Owen knows," Pip said desperately. The little dragon ran to the human's side and shook his shoulder. "Owen, please wake up. Please. We need you. Mommy needs you." Owen's eyes flickered open slowly. They were unfocused and glazed with pain. He tried to speak, but only a rasp came out. His throat was too dry. "The medicine," he finally managed to whisper. The words were barely audible. "Sarah, she's alive," Pip said quickly. The words tumbled out fast. "But we don't know how to give her the medicine. You have to tell us." Owen tried to sit up and failed. Every movement sent waves of agony through his body. He could feel his organs shutting down one by one. He had minutes left, maybe less. "Help me up," he gasped. Two dragons carefully lifted him into a sitting position. Owen's head swam. His vision darkened at the edges. He forced himself to focus on the vials Roth held. "Intravenous injection," Owen said. Each word was an effort. "Directly into the bloodstream. Need to find a vein. A large one." His hand shook violently as he tried to take the vial. Roth pulled it back, keeping it safe. "You cannot even hold it steady," the elder dragon said. "Tell me what to do. I will administer it." Owen had never taught a dragon to give an injection before. He had never taught anyone who did not have hands. But he talked Roth through it step by step. How to prepare the vial. How to find the vein in Sarah's foreleg, where the scales were thinnest. How to insert the needle at the correct angle. Roth's claws were huge compared to the delicate medical equipment, but he moved with surprising precision. He followed Owen's instructions exactly. His expression was intense with concentration. The needle slid into Sarah's vein smoothly. Roth slowly pressed the plunger, releasing the medicine into her bloodstream. "All 3 vials," Owen said weakly. "She's bigger than humans. Needs a full dose." They repeated the process with the second and third vials. Roth's movements became more confident each time. When the last vial was empty, they could only wait. Owen slumped against the cave wall. He had done all he could. The rest was up to Sarah's body and the medicine. He felt himself fading fast. The combat drug was finally losing its hold. His body was giving up the fight. Pip curled up against his side. The little dragon was warm and soft. "You did it, Owen," Pip said. "You brought the medicine. You saved her." "Maybe," Owen whispered. "Not sure yet." "You did," Pip insisted. The little dragon held up the tarnished service medal. "You kept your promise. You came back. I kept this safe for you, just like you asked. Owen managed a weak smile. He tried to take the metal, but his hand would not cooperate. His fingers would not close. Pip pressed it into his palm and closed his fingers around it gently. Thank you, Owen said. His eyes drifted closed. He was so tired. Pip shook him frantically. No, you have to stay awake. You have to see Mommy get better. But Owen could not stay awake. The exhaustion went deeper than bone, deeper than blood. It was the kind of tired that came from using up every last bit of strength the body possessed. The healers examined him again. One of them looked at Pip with deep sorrow in her eyes. The human is dying, little one, she said softly. The radiation has destroyed too much. There is nothing we can do for injuries this severe. There has to be something, Pip cried. He saved Mommy. Someone has to save him. Roth knelt down beside the small dragon. He spoke gently. Sometimes, Pip, being brave means accepting what we cannot change. Owen knew the risks. He went anyway because he thought saving Sarah was worth his life. But it's not fair, Pip sobbed. He's too good to die. He's the best person I ever knew. The dragon stood in respectful silence around the fallen human. One of the healers checked her vital signs and gasped in amazement. Her blood is regenerating, she said with wonder in her voice. The medicine is working. She is recovering. Pip looked up with sudden hope flooding those young eyes. Mommy is going to live? Yes, the healer said. There were tears in her eyes now. She's going to live. Pip looked at Owen's unconscious form, then back at Sarah. The little dragon's face crumpled. But Owen is dying, Pip whispered. Sarah's eye opened. It was still weak, still clouded with sickness, but awareness was returning. She saw Pip first. Then her gaze traveled to Owen lying nearby. She saw his condition. Understanding flooded her features immediately. What happened? She asked. Her voice was hoarse and rough. Pip told her everything through sobs. The journey through the radiation zone. The medicine. The sacrifice. Everything Owen had done. Sarah struggled to rise despite her weakness. Her legs shook, but she forced herself up. No, I will not let him die, she said firmly. Not after what he has done. There is nothing to be done, Roth said sadly. The radiation poisoning is too severe. No medicine can repair that damage. There is one way, Sarah said. Her voice was stronger now, filled with determination. An old way, dangerous and painful, but it is his only chance. What way? Pip asked desperately. Sarah looked at Owen with fierce determination in her golden eyes. Dragon fire can burn away damaged flesh and force the body to regenerate. We use it in the old healing rituals. But it must be done carefully with perfect control. And it will hurt him more than anything he has ever felt. But it might save him. Might? Pip asked in a small voice. Maybe, Sarah said honestly, if his body is strong enough to survive the treatment. If I can control my fire precisely enough while still weak. If we are very, very lucky. She looked around at the gathered dragons. Her expression was resolute. But he saved my life. I must try to save his. Sarah struggled to her feet. She was still weak, but determination filled her eyes. The other dragons rushed to support her, but she waved them off with her wing. She needed to do this herself. Lay him flat, she instructed. Her voice was steady despite her weakness. I need access to his entire body. They positioned Owen on the smooth cave floor. His breathing was so shallow now that his chest barely moved. Sarah studied him with a healer's eye. She identified the areas of worst damage. The radiation had attacked every cell, but some organs were more damaged than others. This will be agony for him, she said quietly. Dragon fire burning away flesh is not meant for human bodies, but it is the only way to force the cells to regenerate clean. The damaged tissue must be destroyed so healthy tissue can grow. Will he survive? Pip asked in a very small voice. I do not know, Sarah admitted. She would not lie to her child. But I know he will die if I do nothing. So I must try. Elder Roth stepped forward. Concern showed on his ancient face. You are still weak yourself, Sarah, he said. Your fire control may not be precise enough. One mistake could kill him. Then I will not make a mistake, Sarah said firmly. She lowered her great head near Owen's chest and took a deep breath. The other dragons moved back, giving her room to work. Pip stayed close, clutching Owen's service medal like a lifeline. Sarah released a thin stream of fire. It was so controlled that it was barely more than a thread of flame. It touched Owen's chest and his body jerked violently. His eyes snapped open suddenly. A scream tore from his throat. The sound was horrible. It was raw and broken. It was a sound of agony beyond words. "Hold him still," Sarah commanded. Tears streamed down her face, even as she continued the treatment. "He must not move, or I could burn something vital." Several dragons pinned Owen's arms and legs gently but firmly. He thrashed against them. Every instinct screamed at him to escape the pain. But they held him as Sarah's fire slowly, carefully burned away the radiation-poisoned tissue. She worked inch by inch across his body. Every patch of damaged skin was treated with precise fire. The smell of burning flesh filled the cave. It was an awful smell that made some of the younger dragons turn away. Owen's screams eventually faded to hoarse gasps as his voice gave out, but his eyes remained wide with suffering. His body shook with each wave of pain. Pip sobbed openly, watching Owen endure this torture to live. "I'm sorry, Owen. I'm so sorry," the little dragon cried. "Please forgive us." "He would tell you there is nothing to forgive," Roth said gently. He rested one claw on the small dragon's back. "Look at his eyes. Even through the pain, there is no blame there." It was true. When Owen's gaze found Pip between waves of agony, there was only determination in those eyes. He had survived the radiation zone. He would survive this too. He had to. The treatment lasted for hours. Sarah worked with painstaking care. Her own body was shaking with exhaustion. The medicine had saved her life, but she was far from fully recovered. Using her fire with such precision drained what little strength she had regained. Finally, as dawn broke outside the cave once more, Sarah pulled back. Her legs gave out completely. She collapsed beside Owen, utterly spent. "It is done," she gasped. "All I can do. Now his body must heal on its own." Owen lay motionless. His chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. His skin was raw and red where the fire had burned away the damaged layers. But underneath, new healthy tissue was already beginning to form. The dragon fire had forced his cells into rapid regeneration. The healers examined him carefully. They moved with quick efficiency. "His vital signs are stabilizing," one reported with cautious hope in her voice. "The radiation damage is gone. If infection does not set in, if his body can handle the trauma, he may actually survive." "May," Pip repeated. The little dragon looked between Owen and Sarah, both unconscious now. "That's not a promise." "No," Roth agreed. "But it is hope. That is more than we had before." Days blurred together after that. Owen and Sarah lay side by side, both fighting to recover. The dragon community kept constant vigil over them. They brought water and medicine. They monitored their conditions carefully. Pip refused to leave their sides. The little dragon slept curled between them, one wing touching Owen's arm and one touching Sarah's leg. Other young dragons brought food, but Pip barely touched it. On the third day, Owen's eyes opened. He stared at the cave ceiling, confused and disoriented. Everything hurt, but it was a different kind of pain than before. This was the pain of healing, not dying. "Owen!" Pip's voice was rough from crying. The little dragon scrambled closer. "You're awake? You're really awake?" Owen's mouth was too dry to speak. Someone brought water and helped him drink. He coughed, winced at the pain in his raw throat, then tried again. "Sarah?" he managed to croak. "She's alive," Pip said quickly. Relief flooded the small face. The medicine worked. "She's been awake a couple times. She's tired from healing you, but she's getting better." Owen's eyes closed in relief. She was alive. It had worked. All of it had been worth it. "You were very stupid," Pip said, but there was no anger in the words, only fierce affection. "You almost died. You kind of did die. Your heart stopped twice while Mommy was healing you." "Sorry," Owen whispered. "Don't be sorry," Pip said firmly. "Be better." You have to stay alive now. No more almost dying. I'll try, Owen said. A small smile touched his lips. Over the next week, both Owen and Sarah slowly recovered. They spent most of their time sleeping. Their bodies were working overtime to heal. When they were both conscious at the same time, they did not speak much. There was an understanding between them that went beyond words. She had saved him. He had saved her. They were even now, though neither of them thought of it in those terms. That was not what this was about. On the 8th day, Owen was finally strong enough to sit up on his own. Sarah was recovering faster. Her dragon physiology was more resilient than human biology. She could walk now, though she tired easily. She settled beside him, her great bulk warm and comforting. "We need to talk," she said quietly. Owen nodded. He had been expecting this conversation. "I have been sick for over a year," Sarah began. "I hid it well. Only in the last month did it become impossible to conceal. I knew I was dying. I knew there was no cure. Why didn't you tell me?" Owen asked. "I could have looked for treatment sooner." "Because I did not know it was a human disease," Sarah said. "I thought it was my fate, something all dragons must face. I was preparing for death." She looked at Pip, who was napping nearby, exhausted from days of worry. "I brought Pip to visit you so often because I was trying to prepare my child for a future without me," Sarah continued. Her voice was heavy with emotion. "I wanted Pip to know someone good, someone brave, someone who would teach the lessons I could not teach once I was gone." Owen's throat tightened. "Sarah, I'm just a broken-down veteran. I'm not paramaterial. You are exactly what Pip needs," Sarah said firmly. "Not someone perfect. Someone who understands that life is hard, but you keep going anyway. Someone who knows how to protect others, even at cost of yourself." She paused and asked directly, "Were you asking me? If I had died, would you have taken care of Pip?" Owen did not hesitate. "Yes." "Why?" "Because Pip is family," Owen said simply. "You both are, ever since you stayed with me in that collapsed mine." Sarah made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Humans have a strange definition of family. We have known each other only 3 years. "Time doesn't matter," Owen said. "What matters is who stands beside you when everything is falling apart. By that measure, we've been family from the beginning." Pip stirred and opened one eye. "You're talking about me?" "Yes," Sarah said, amusement in her voice. "Come here, little eavesdropper." Pip scrambled over and settled between them. The little dragon looked up at Owen, then at Sarah. "So, what are you two deciding?" Pip asked. "That we are family," Sarah said. "The 3 of us, no matter what." "I already knew that," Pip said matter-of-factly. "I've been calling Owen Pop in my head for months now. Just wasn't sure if humans do the family thing same as dragons." Owen felt something break open in his chest. Something that had been locked tight since the war. Warmth flooded through him. "We do," he said. His voice was rough with emotion. "Humans definitely do the family thing." Pip beamed and snuggled against his side. "Good. Because I'm not letting either of you go anywhere ever again. We're staying together." "Together?" Sarah agreed, resting her head near them. "Together." Owen echoed. Outside the cave, Elder Ross smiled. He had been listening. The old dragon turned and walked away, leaving the new family to rest. 3 weeks after Owen nearly died, he was finally strong enough to walk back to his workshop. Pip insisted on coming along, fly in wobbly circles overhead. The little dragon was still learning to fly properly and crashed into a bush at least twice during the short journey. Sarah followed at a distance, recovered enough to fly. She landed on a ridge nearby and watched as Owen surveyed his workshop. The equipment he had been repairing was covered in dust. Everything looked exactly as he had left it that desperate day when Pip came running for help. It felt like a lifetime ago. "You gonna fix that?" Pip asked, pointing at the mining equipment. Eventually, Owen said, "First, I need to fix myself some proper meals. I'm tired of cave food." Over the following weeks, a new routine developed. Owen worked in his workshop during the day, but in the evenings he went to caves. He became part of the dragon family fully. Word had spread about what Owen did for Sarah. The dragon community's attitude toward humans began to change. They saw how Sarah and Pip thrived with Owen as part of their family. They saw how he respected dragon traditions while teaching them about humans. 6 months after Owen nearly died, Pip finally mastered sustained flight. The little dragon soared to the sky, calling down Owen and Sarah below. Look, I'm doing it. I'm really flying. Owen shaded his eyes against the sun, grinning. I see you. That's amazing, Pip. Sarah leaned against Owen's shoulder. Her wing draped over him like a warm blanket. Thank you, Sarah said quietly. For what? For giving Pip a future, she said. For giving me a future. For showing both of us that family doesn't have to look like what we expected. Owen watched Pip perform a loop in the air. The little dragon's joy was visible in every movement. I think you gave me more than I gave you, Owen said. I was just existing before. You two made me want to actually live again. In the cave that night, after Pip fell asleep curled between them, Sarah spoke softly. Do you ever regret it? The radiation poisoning, the pain, all of it. Owen thought about the question seriously. His body still bore scars. He would probably always have some effects from the radiation exposure. No, he said finally, I don't regret it. Before I met you both, I was alive, but I wasn't living. You gave me a reason to keep going. We are just one dragon and one hatchling, Sarah said. You are everything, Owen said simply. You are my family. That's all the reason anyone needs. Outside, the stars shone over Redstone Valley. In a warm cave filled with dragon fire and human hope, 3 beings of different species slept peacefully. They were bound together by something stronger than blood. They were family,